Hi, my name is Jennifer Wenning. I'm a nurse practitioner at Balance Health, and this is part 2 of Heal Your Gut, Heal Your Body. And we will talk more about how to heal your gut so that you can start feeling better. So throughout this part, I will be talking about how the gut is like a field. It's just a little analogy, and a field on fire is kind of like leaky gut and inflammation. So when you think about a field on fire, how does it stay on fire? Well, it needs oxygen and something to burn. And can you plant seeds on a fire or on a field that's on fire and expect growth? No, you're going to waste your money. So you must remove the fuel that could keep the fire going before you do anything else. So what does that mean? Well, you want to really do the first and the second one here are the big hitters. You want to remove processed foods. So if it has a label, it's probably been processed in some way. You want to read labels. And if it contains any kind of food additives, so chemical names that you can't say, or natural flavors, just put it back on the shelf. Those chemicals don't belong in your body, and they won't know what to do with them. So you want to opt, for whole foods, single ingredient foods. Walk around the perimeter of the grocery store, excluding maybe the bakery and like the deli foods. I'm talking about like deli ham, the super processed bacon, that sort of stuff. And just, single ingredients. So things you can recognize, and you can make some tasty stuff just that way. Sugar goes by many names. You can probably Google, say, names for sugar, and you can get probably a list of 100 plus names. And sugar feeds the unhealthy bacteria and fungus in the gut. So if you don't feed them, you're not going to grow them. And sugar is a demon in many ways. And if you check our Balanced Health blog, Dr. Morgan recently did a quick video on sugar. But I listed there some alternative sweeteners if you must use something sweet. That would be okay. Grains, and you see all the different kinds there, and I left off oats. I didn't mean to leave that one off. Grains are maybe a little controversial, but our bodies just don't process them great. And I have another slide here in a bit to kind of argue against grains. But I listed some alternative flours there, and they are different to bake with. I'm a baker, and I have not quite mastered the textures, the things that we're used to. But maybe that's okay. Maybe we need to get unused to that fluffy, doughy texture, and just realize like we have to feed our bodies healthy things. You want to limit alcohol, especially grain-based alcohols, but alcohol in general is converted over to sugar. So the bacteria love it. Your insulin levels skyrocket and you gain weight. So emulsifiers, and this is just a few names that I listed there, but they're often in dressings and mayonnaise, yogurts, nut milks, nut butters, ice cream, anything that basically, normally would separate if you made it homemade. And but emulsifiers keep everything mixed together, so you don't have to worry about shaking up the dressing bottle or whatever. But what happens is those emulsifying agents actually go into your GI tract, and when they come in contact with the mucus, it weakens the lining. So those microbes have the opportunity to come in contact with the cell wall and potentially go across those tight junctions and enter the bloodstream. So instead, make homemade dressings, have olive oil and vinegar, making nut milks, which I don't think is very hard. I've never tried. But making your own yogurt, so much easier to do than you think and much healthier for you. And I did list a few okay emulsifiers there. You may see those on a few things. But the typical is not just them. They're them and a lot of those other very long words. If you have any food sensitivities or allergens, if you had one of our sensitivity panels with Vibrant, you probably have a good idea of that. But there's lots of other tests out there that do the same. And if you remove those, at least temporarily, you're going to calm down some of the inflammation and some of your symptoms. Avoiding or minimizing over-the-counter drugs, especially acid blockers, like omeprazole and Zantac and Pepcid, anti-inflammatory drugs. Like if one of my patients is going to take ibuprofen, I always tell them, please take it with food because there's a huge risk for a GI bleed. If that chemical substance erodes the mucosal tract or barrier in our GI tract, and it can lead to bleeds. Avoiding antibiotics whenever possible. Just because you have a cough or sinus pain does not mean it's bacterial. And yes, sometimes it can be hard to distinguish, but trusting our medical judgment, and we really do try to think of our implications long term with the antibiotics. But there is a time and place for them. But just don't just call and request antibiotics without us taking a look at you, so we know that we are doing the best thing for you. And statin cholesterol drugs, don't just stop these, please. Please talk to us first. But there is some evidence that they are affecting our gut microbiome. Toxins, which includes molds, heavy metals, just general pollutants, it's the plastics in the water, chlorinated drinking water. I mean, if you think about what chlorine does in the water, right? When they're cleaning out the facility, that's killing microbes. Great. I don't want cholera, but I also don't want the chlorine entering my body because it's going to kill bacteria in there too. Switching over to non-toxic cleaners around the house. Clean should be no odor. You shouldn't smell anything when it's clean. You shouldn't smell bleach. When you're cooking, switching off of Teflon, those nonstick pans. There are a few safer alternatives out there. You kind of have to Google what those are. Getting away from plastic food storage containers. Using glass and maybe silicone. I think there's a few other safer options out there as well. When possible, purchasing organic, non-GMO produce. That website there, ewg.org, is the Environmental Working Group. They rate foods with this Clean 15 and Dirty Dozen. Clean 15 are foods that either have a thick peel that you're going to peel off anyway and won't eat, or foods that aren't sprayed a bunch, with pesticides, herbicides. So you can feel comfortable buying that non-organic versus the Dirty Dozen. A lot of fruit, like berries are on there, cherries. They have thin skins. You're not going to peel it off before you eat it. And then this ewg.org also has information on house cleaning products, skincare products, switching out those skincare products for safer alternatives. I listed out a few companies there, but there's a lot of heavy metals in makeup, parabens and all kinds of nasty stuff that you don't want getting into your body. And then you can consider these supplements that we have at for order at Balance Health from Cellcore, and they have these binders that help clear the toxins from the body using like humic acid, fulvic acid, because carbon technology is what they call it. So parasites and pathogens, you want to get rid of those. Parasites are tricky because they're hard to test for. They are very good at hiding in the lining of the GI tract and using something called a biofilm, so they kind of protect themselves and fly under the radar. But they can wreak havoc on our neurotransmitters and our digestion. So there are parasite cleanses from Cellcore for those. Additionally, there are antibiotics to help with SIBO. There's prescription ones actually, but they have a lot of side effects and they're very expensive. So there are some herbal treatments that work very well. Dr. William Davis talks about these in Supergut and even has a protocol in his book. I've also tried to simplify it in Excel spreadsheet. So I do have those available for patients. And these are, herbal antibiotics, so it's kind of nice. And then there's also herbal treatments for the fungal overgrowth, which sometimes rears its ugly head once the bacteria are kind of out of the way. The fungus take advantage and they come out. So you kind of have to tackle both. I'll talk about more of that in part 3. So here's my additional arguments against grain consumption. Wheat germ agglutinin is in wheat, rye, barley, and rice. It's a potent bowel toxin. Humans can't digest it. And if you have a leaky gut, the proteins of WGA get into the bloodstream, and they have been found in the bile ducts. They release the bile from coming out of the gallbladder, which can lead to sludge and stones. They can even block the release of pancreatic enzymes from the pancreas, and all bad stuff. But interestingly, it also can block leptin, which is our hormone signaling that we are full. So we can eat way more than what our bodies require if leptin is blocked. So think about when you go to an Italian restaurant, you have a big pasta meal, and the dessert menu comes around, and you're like, I'm kind of full, but yeah, the tiramisu sounds good. I could do it. And so you power through, you eat it. So you just got way more nutrition than you needed, and you do this too many times, you're going to gain weight. But if you go and have, a really big, salad with some protein on there, the chances are that you're going to want to order some dessert afterwards is pretty low because your stomach is stretched, your leptin is up, and you're not going to want to eat anymore. So amylopectin A is a carb in grains that's very highly digestible. It starts in the mouth with the amylase, and this increases your blood sugar really fast. And if blood sugars are high, then our insulin levels also spike. And if we have enough sugar already, we're not going to waste the energy. So we're going to store it as fat. We convert it over to fat, and of course we gain weight. So another thing that happens when we eat carbs, especially what we will call naked carbs, where they're not paired with a fat or a protein, is, we may kind of get our fix, right? We kind of get satiated. We're like, yeah, I got my sugar. Well, 90 to 120 minutes later, you crash. You feel grumpy, you're craving more, you're tired, you just feel mentally foggy. So we go out and search for more food and we eat more. And this goes round and round every 2 hours. So it's probably why Americans eat so much. If you go over to Europe, you don't see them snacking all the time. Grains also have something in them called phytates, and that can block nutrient absorption. So calcium, zinc, iron, mag. I feel like I'm missing another one. But this is why most breads, cereals are fortified, because the food industry knows it. Doesn't really matter because we still won't absorb them well. And you can get, all kinds of symptoms if you have deficiencies, fatigue and rashes. Your immune system is bad. You have muscle cramps, blood sugar regulation is poor, and bone thinning, like osteoporosis. So now that the fire is out, you've taken all that stuff out of your life, out of your body. Now it's time to replace. So what do you need in a field before you plant, right? You want to get the soil healthier, which means fertilizer. So we need, in our guts, we need nutrients. And, if you've had that micronutrient profile, then we have a pretty clear idea of what you're lacking. Most of the population is lacking vitamin D. We're not running around naked like they did back in the day. When most of our bodies are clothed and our skin sees very little sun. We also don't go outside very much anymore. So there's some general recommendations there for how many units per day with food. This is something we should monitor because we don't want you to get too much. It is a fat-soluble vitamin, so you don't pee it out or poop it out. Like you absorb it. So omega-3s, this comes from, I think, flax seeds is one, but fish oil-based formulas tend to have higher doses. But you want to make sure that the supplement has been purified of heavy metals because our fish are unfortunately being contaminated with heavy metals now. And that can transfer into a supplement if you don't buy a high quality type. And there's some recommendations there for how much. And I will caution if you have a condition that has you on warfarin or Xarelto or Eliquis, something like that, aspirin, you need to be very cautious with omegas because they also increase bleeding time. Iodine is something many of us are deficient in. We don't salt our food like we used to, or we use fancy, sea salt or Himalayan salt or what have you, but it's not the type that iodine is added to. And even if you have a, canister of Morton's in the pantry, if it's been open, immediately iodine starts evaporating into the air, and most of it's gone within 4 weeks. And the caution here is if you have any type of autoimmune thyroid condition, don't just start taking iodine without talking to us because it can actually make those conditions worse. Magnesium is something else that you should consider taking. There's lots of different forms, so you want to make sure that you're looking for one that is absorbable, like magnesium malate or glycinate. If you were to take citrate, magnesium citrate, that we use as a colon cleanse for like a colonoscopy. So just be cautious. And there's even a magnesium water that Dr. Davis's book has a recipe for, and that's also very well absorbed and it's pretty cheap to make. So, and what's not listed here are the B vitamins. It's important to get those checked before just starting to supplement, but a lot of us are deficient, and with correction of the bowel flora, you may make it to stop taking the B vitamins because the bacteria will be making them for you. The digestive enzymes, these are something else you probably could get off once you have a healthier balance of microbes. But until then, these really do help break down the fats and the carbs and the proteins, and just so you have less GI distress. So now that the soil is healthier, it's time to plant those seeds. And in our guts, that means probiotics. So probiotics, they're the good bacteria that we want to take in through food and supplements. There's some foods there that contain probiotics. I will say the yogurts that are available just on the shelf, they're typically not very diverse in the species of probiotic, and they're typically not ones that we're like deficient in. They're only fermented for 4 hours, so you don't get a whole lot of microbes in 4 hours. They also often contain the emulsifiers and a lot of sugar, so really negates any benefit of the probiotic. But you can make them at home, and I become a little obsessed with this, and it's so easy. The taste is definitely like a little tart, but with a little bit of like a nut-based granola, I've been able to kind of cut that and a few blueberries, and it's much more tolerable. But it's fun. You get to pick what microbes that you're actually going to make. There's fermented foods. You can make these at home very easily. Check your labels, and for the stuff that you buy over the counter, stores may or may not actually be beneficial for you. Eating raw vegetables and berries, as soon as you cook them, they're dead. So if there was any bacteria on them, it's gone. You can run some underwater, get some of the dirt off, but eating some raw foods is good. If you are supplementing the iodine, you want to separate the probiotic from that by a couple hours because they can interfere with each other. And in general, for a probiotic supplement, you want high bacterial counts, and you want to have a lot of different types in there. And I put a few suggestions there of what to look for, for species, the lactobacillus and the bifidobacterium. You want those in there. And on this next slide are just some examples of the different yogurts that the Super Gut book lists, and I've been experimenting with. But I made one to kind of help with the immune system and respiratory diseases or infections. And I took a bite and I was like, my kids will never eat this. But I have been able to slip it into a few things, and they haven't detected it. So I'll keep working on them. But it's pretty amazing what replacing these species that have been pretty much eradicated from our guts can help bring back for us. So if you plant the seeds, they're going to need nourishment, water, oxygen, sunlight. And what does that mean? Prebiotics. So prebiotics are food fibers that are indigestible by humans, but they are the feast for a healthy microbiota in the intestines. So you do want to start a probiotic for 3 days before starting prebiotics. And your goal, you start with about 10 grams a day. You work your way up to 20 grams a day, depending on how your gut feels. I listed a bunch of different prebiotics from foods there. You can look it up online, like how many grams each of those has. There are supplement powders that you can add into your coffee, your tea, your smoothies, into yogurt, applesauce, for kids maybe. But I would say they're a good addition, but also make sure you're getting it from food. And these new plantlings will need fertilizer to keep them going. So we want to get some herbs and spices, flavonoids, polyphenols, resistant starches to feed the new bacteria in your gut. And flavonoids are what make those bright colors in foods. So the richer the color, the more the flavonoid content. So you're looking for the bright red bell pepper, the red onion, pomegranates, berries. Also be mindful of sugar content. Yes, red wine, but you want to be cautious because it does get converted to sugar. And a good rule of thumb is if you notice that vibrancy of color diminishing with cooking, then you are also losing phytonutrients. So, just pay attention. So eat more raw foods. Polyphenols, there's a bunch listed there. Extra virgin olive oil, I want to point out just because that helps build the mucosal tract. So having really good olive oil is beneficial for that. Resistant starches leads to the production of short chain fatty acids, and that can be like a whole nother talk on its own. But just know they're good for you. You want these. And I will point out the green bananas. You don't want yellow because as soon as they start turning yellow, they get more sugar content and they lose the fiber, that resistant starch. So I just I buy whenever I see them, or I ask the produce guy. I'm like, hey, you got any green bananas back there? And I will cut them up, slice them up, and I lay them flat on a cookie sheet with parchment paper. I freeze them. And once they're frozen, I put them into a container, and then I can just grab a handful to add to smoothies. I also will do raw white potato. I don't think I see that anywhere on the slide, but those also have really good resistant starches. So I will chop up, I'll peel and then chop up a white potato. I add that on top of salads or throw it into a smoothie. You can't really taste it in a smoothie, and on a salad, it's just like texture basically, and it's good for the bacteria in your gut. But don't cook it. As soon as you cook it, it loses its goodness. And you want to continue to repair all those leaky junctions and restore the mucosal barrier. So the curcumin is in turmeric. It can reduce the unhealthy species of bacteria and fungi, and it bolsters up the production of intestinal mucus. So it's good stuff. When you take a supplement for this, you actually want a type that will not be absorbed. So you have to pay attention to if there's any additives in there. I know like black pepper. I think it's that piperine that helps it absorb. So a lot of people take curcumin or turmeric for like joint pain, but that's not the form of curcumin you would want to take for the gut. We're trying to heal the inflammation within the gut. So, and this is limited. You don't want to probably go past 8 weeks. There's not a lot of research about what happens beyond that. So just kind of keep it to when you're really hammering it hard with cleaning things up. And capsaicin, that's in hot peppers. You can just think, it's probably, I'm guessing, just challenging the gut lining to make it thicker because it's like trying to prevent pain. I don't know. And then you had the berberine, the L-glutamine, some other supplements there that I list that helps repair the mucosal barrier. I do want to talk about the clove. Clove is like a big powerhouse. It helps strengthen the intestinal mucosal barrier and restores it. And it's just great. And this is a really easy tea to make. I've been making it every morning. And you can reuse this tablespoon of whole cloves probably 10 times, maybe more. It does weaken, the more, you've used it. The first batch is usually pretty strong, but I just kind of sip it throughout the day. And I add, this FOS powder. It's down here, the fructooligosaccharides. It's you can get it online, and so you're adding a prebiotic there. And last but not least, you want to rebalance, and this is just as important as the food and removing toxins and what have you. But stress is a killer to our guts. You need to figure out how to balance things out. Take your mental breaks. Actually, take your lunch break. Take a walk after lunch. Hugging, that releases oxytocin, our connectedness to everyone. Actually, take your vacations. Finding a way to, if you can do like a daily mindfulness meditation practice or pray. Learn to say no. That's a big one. And there are some supplements that can help with, your adrenal support, your mood, but those are Band-Aids. Like, you really need to dig deep and figure out how to help your stress. And sleep is a big priority. Have good sleep habits. Keep the same sleep schedule, whether it's a weeknight versus weekend. Ban the technology from the, bedroom. And there are some supplements. I listed one here. This Biotique Quest Simple Slumber is actually a probiotic. They also have a few other ones that help with sugar and mood. So it's actually the bacteria that can help you sleep better. So that's kind of fun. I haven't tried that one yet. The L-Reuteri yogurt has helped my sleep. And exercise, it's great for everything, and our guts love it. And our guys at Balance Health in the gym, like, they have a great program, and it's not just about movement and being functional. It's just about the community as well. And, it's something to look into, especially as we're at the new year. We're about to have a New Year's challenge and developing healthy habits. So I hope everyone will sign up for that and get to beat the guys in the gym. And that's it for part 2. Again, here's those same resources. In the next section, part 3 will be shorter, but it will be talking more specifically about the SIBO and SIFO protocols that are laid out in Super Gut, the Dr. Davis book here. And thanks. Hope to see you soon in the clinic. We can talk more.